the Barretts, who send their love to everybody. So Nigel sent me this of Amy. I hope that plays. And I thought that'd be a timely or an appropriate way to transition into our next speaker. So this is Amy doing part of her physical therapy routine. All right. So moving forward, it's really a great honor and pleasure to introduce, for those of you who did not come to the conference 2 years ago, and to reintroduce those of you that did, Dr. Tommy John III, who I consider not just a colleague, but a friend. And the story, for those of you that didn't hear, is I met Tommy about just a little over 2 years ago at an event for my son's Little League Baseball. It was kind of the beginning of the season, and I had no idea that Tommy John was there and gave this little talk. And it was just a talk that I found personally so inspiring. Because Tommy, as you know, comes from this incredible background of athletes. He himself was a major league pitcher until he was brought down by injuries. But, you know, we as a country and all of us, I think, are guilty to a certain extent of this mindset of win now, baby, at all costs. And I dare say probably Brazil when it comes to football and the UK for football, the same kind of mentality. But what was really refreshing to hear about when I heard Tommy speak was that he embraces a much more holistic approach. And, you know, the Tommy John surgery that was done originally, how many years ago now? 30 years ago?
1974.
You know, it's completely changed. And now you hear about 21-year-olds that have absolutely destroyed their pitching arms because of this mentality of do everything now to win. And that's not, at least as I understand it, what the Tommy John surgery was originally intended to be for. And so I was really inspired when I heard Tommy John III talk about his much more holistic approach. And it also resonated with me that he has a lot of experience in working with people with special needs and disabilities. And that made me think, let's go for it. Let's ask Tommy if he might want to come speak at our conference. And he did. And I think he was received, in fact, he got the most votes for, I think, the most popular presentation of any, including mine, at the conference 2 years ago. And I dare say that he will live up to that billing today. Just as an aside, I wanted to mention something to you. Tommy is really very modest, but he has, I think, for many, many years had these ideas floating around in his mind that he has now formalized in the form of a book that just came out literally like 3 weeks ago, which you see here. And I just looked this up yesterday for the first time on Amazon. I don't know if you're aware of this, Tommy. It is the #1 selling new book on the market. And, you know, if you look at Amazon for book reviews, they give a star rating, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. So there were 30 reviews. And I have never seen this before. All 30 of those reviews gave him a 5-star rating. So did you know that?
I did not know that.
Well, now you do. And I'm not making this stuff up. I guarantee you. I mean, that is really, really cool. And I asked Tommy if maybe I could get a copy of his book. So anyway, it is really a great pleasure to welcome you. And we have a few things, including a good bottle of wine that I think you'll put to good use. So how about a big hand for thank you. I will get out of your way here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not going to hold the mic. You can't hear me, let me know, and I will. I appreciate being invited back. It's an absolute honor. Paul and I will meet together maybe once or twice a year, and we have a hard time monitoring our visit time. So we end up going to a coffee shop, and it ends up 3.5 hours later, and we realize we've missed either our first appointments or our list of things that we have to do. And that's just the way we are. That's the way he is. Just a very kind person and very proud to call a friend. So what we got today, I am a chiropractor, classically trained. But I've also been in training in rehab, various injuries. I was a professional baseball player for 2 years. I did baseball lessons with kids, over 11,000 of them in 8 years. And there was a trend not normal, but common, that they're happening in younger and younger age. And I, at the time, realized I wasn't at the top of the food chain. So at 32 years old, I shut down my baseball business because I realized I was part of the problem. I was getting money in the off season working with baseball and throwing in the winter time when these kids could have been playing and exploring and moving and exploring different sports and really just devouring life, you know. And I was gaining monetarily, and it just, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stay on it, and so I shut that down. And I ended up going back to chiropractic school to get my degree at 32 years old. To put it all together, so I am a chiropractor, and I just want to talk first about what chiropractic truly is, the principles of what chiropractic are, because it's kind of muddled out there, as we tend to muddle a lot of professions. We don't really know what's what anymore. So the basic premise is brain controls everything in our body. Every single cell, tissue, and organ is hardwired to three structures: the brain stem, and the spinal cord. And then off the cord comes the nerves. Hardwired. We don't even really know what that is anymore. But all these things, from digestion to endocrine to toes, so
Gotcha. Watching. Gotcha.
All right. Here we go. Sorry. Thank you. So, every cell, tissue, and organ is hardwired to these three structures. Now, those three structures are very soft. They're very malleable, and they need to be protected. They're the only organs protected by bone, if you think about it. So we got a skull, and we have vertebrae, the spinal bones, okay? Those bones shift and move in so many different directions, some more than others, and they have to protect that hose. That hose is literally the lifeline from the body to the brain. You've felt the spider on the leg. You know to move your leg at lightning ninja speed because you have a memory of some time before. The brain senses that through a nerve, registers it, goes in its files. Have we felt that before? Yeah, it was the spider back in camp. Boom, and it's done, okay? That connection for something as simple as a spider on your leg or a cut. We always look at these cuts on legs, and you don't have to do anything. It'll heal. For the most part, it's just going to take care of itself, okay? But sometimes, those segments in the spine become shifted or they get stuck. And when they do, it's literally like pressure on a garden hose. If a hose is running off to one side and you put pressure on it with your foot, there'd be less water at the other end. In the body, in this analogy, that water is information. It's information going to everywhere. It's coded. It's so high level, we'll never decode it. I don't think. I hope not, because I hope there's still a little mystery left. Okay? But the thing being, when those shifts happen, it's like a dimmer switch on our lives. When we could be 120 watts, but we're hitting at 90, everyone's looking at the bulb, wondering what's wrong with the bulb, putting tape on the bulb, change out the bulb, do a surgery, do all this stuff, but has anybody checked the connection first? And so that's what I do in my practice first. That's chiropractic. And only when that dimmer switch is present is an adjustment made. An adjustment is not a crack. I just cracked my nut. That was just gas released in my joints. It didn't hurt. Bones aren't rubbing on each other. I make sounds all the time in my joints. You guys have too, I'm sure. That's not an adjustment, a sound. An adjustment is specifically locating nerve interference in 24 movable parts in the spine that's different for everybody and applying a direct force, low force, at the time when it's necessary. Has nothing to do with pain, has nothing to do with symptoms. Okay, it's not neck pain, back pain. People will get on the table, they want to tell me the list of stuff, and I'm like, hold on, my chiropractic hat's on. I don't care. I do care, but the training rehab hat will come on later, and that's when I get obsessed with symptoms or nutrition or meditation or emotional health or all that. But nervous system-wise, I don't need to know. The most powerful chiropractic results, some of the most powerful chiropractic stories come from kids and animals because there's no educated. There's nothing to get in the way. I mean, literally, they just respond, and it's like a page turned. It's like light on, light off. But the adults, like, I don't know, my friend down the road went to one and they didn't have a good time. I read this story where you guys are and it's like, just stop. It's getting in the way. But that is chiropractic, is maintaining that connection between the brain and body, making sure the dimmer switches are ramped up on whomever. Does it mean you have pain? Yeah, sometimes. You mean you get sick? Of course. That's part of it. Okay? But we first got to go to the nervous system. That's what I do. There's an organization. You guys can take this down because, again, sadly, I wish all professions were equal. I just wish you could go in the phone book, throw a dart, and pick it, and we'd all do the same thing. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So there are some specialists in chiropractic that specialize in pediatrics. They are wizards. They are unbelievable. It's ICPA 4, the number 4 kids.com. ICPA4kids.com. And you can locate a specific pediatric chiropractor in your area that will do exactly what I just said. They will locate that interference and remove it with a specific adjustment when necessary and only when necessary. And that, regardless of what else we do, let's make sure that light's turned on. The main power to the house is turned on. That's number one. So regardless of how we're going to go about it, get the system clear. That's what we call it. We call it clear. Okay? All right. Now my chiropractic hat's turned backwards. Now I'm a training rehab specialist now. Okay. So for over 17 years, I've worked in soft tissue injuries. I was obsessed, and I realized that obsession was kind of unique in that I wanted to know why on a bunch of injuries, why things happen to some people and not others. Because it doesn't follow, they're still spinning their wheels in the highest level of sports because there's so money, trying to figure out why do concussions occur, why Tommy John surgeries, which is an elbow surgery, why ACLs. The body is so dynamic, and I'm the worst. Now that I have this book out, I'm doing a bunch of interviews, and the reporters they want that one single finger in the dam, and I say, America wants the one thing. What's the one? Don't tell me all that other stuff. I just want one thing I can do. Come on. There isn't. The dam's overflowing. It's not a finger. It's everything, okay? So if we go into why injuries occur, I would start at the nervous system first. Then all soft tissue injuries come down to this simple premise. It's the body's inability to absorb force. So whether it's a horrific car accident or just stepping off a curb, force comes into the body. When we walk, it's 2 to 3 times body weight into our legs. I respect walking so much. It took just over a year for us to learn how to do it. I walk everywhere, every chance I get. It's so important. And there's some people that are ashamed. They're like, I got injured walking. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. What that girl was doing on that video was profound. It was unbelievable. I have clients that can't do that. Can't even close, and they're full functioning adults driving cars. What? It's a problem. Okay, so body's inability to absorb force. Well, the main force absorbers in the body are muscle. Muscle isn't just, we become very aesthetically driven, where muscle is for looks. I don't know exactly what the number is. I have a hard time. But bone is a certain number of times stronger than concrete. The bodyguard for bone is muscle. Holy cow, that is a big deal. So now we need to just start respecting what our muscles actually do. One, they're controlled by the brain. They're nourished by the stomach and digestive system. Hormones kind of help grow and regulate and relax muscle. Blood vessels feed it. This whole system coming around, but movement is so, so, so powerful. And in all these years of looking at injuries, when we have a condition or a situation or there's an injury, that person has to work harder than everybody else. As we age, there's a doctor, he's a spine surgeon. He was doing open heart surgeries at over 93, I believe. His name's Dr. Amasoff. I don't know if he's still alive, but this was a life-changing event in my journey. He had said something that I'll never forget. It was, move every joint the number of times a day you are years old. So as we age, we've got to move more. Well, that's not what we're being told. It's sit down, sit still, take it easy, you're getting old. We gotta flip that and go more as we age or as we progress through it. If there's something up, we got to do more. if a joint is injured, not broken or dislocated, but injured, you got to move it 200 to 300 times, especially the spine. This guy's not spine anything, but this is what he said. I'll never forget that because that was so against the norm. Well, I started exploring that in myself and in my practice. And healing, I don't heal anybody. I have shirts at my office. It says, you heal you. Nobody heals anybody. The person heals themselves. The body heals itself. We can help, stand alongside, remove some of these barriers, but ultimately the body heals the body. The person heals themselves. And so that was the thing. I started to see the power of movement in everybody. And if we think about this, I want to see, okay, if you can, just try to partner up with somebody just to explore this, okay? One person hold the other person's index finger, okay? If you can. You're going to bend it, okay? You're going to bend it and then straighten it. Now, whoever is having their finger moved, I want you to shut your eyes. The person who's having their finger moved, shut your eyes. The person moving the finger, try to confuse them. Go bent, straight, bent, straight, bent, straight, and then leave it either straight or bent with the eyes shut. Guess if it's straight or bent. Go ahead and try. Were you correct? All right. So we take something like that for granted. You're going to be correct 100% of the time, I hope, okay? But here's the thing. Why is that possible? We weren't looking at it. How do we know? How do we know it is that? What's the deal? Well, there's receptors in that joint. There's things that report position through those nerves we were talking about, through the spinal cord, through the brainstem, into the brain to report. We could literally put the finger at a certain degree, take a picture, draw it blindly, and we'd be pretty accurate. That's amazing. And that's a finger, okay? So now, those receptors that feed the brain that information are huge in the spine. Huge, okay? It's been said that 90% of the stimulation, which is food, to the brain needs stimulus. It's food. It's how we nourish nerves. MS, stimulate like crazy. I've had radical success with MS when you clear the brainstem, usually the upper cervical, because the brain doesn't get that nerve is healthy tissue, so it attacks it. It's confused. And then you move it, nourish it, and those nerves will grow. They will get white and bright, and they will come back. The body is always in a state of adaptation. Always, unless you're dead. If you can grow a bone spur in arthritic conditions, you can grow healthy bone. If you can put on fat as a 90-year-old, you can lose it. It's the same process, just takes a little longer. Okay? So, with that little example there, that's nourishment to the brain. So if we can, any population, the more we can move, the better. Now, Doc said, in the book I described, part of this whole problem is there's no outside anymore. There's no free play. There's no exploration. When we're born, we're kind of useless. I used this last time. We come out, and we're just not entertaining. We're a C-shaped just pile, and we're just laying there. And, okay, now what? And then we start moving. And we just start doing all these things. And it's on a purpose that only that little thing knows, okay? And it's laying on its stomach, and it's holding this monster head up, and it's shaping its spine on purpose because a C-shaped spine isn't really good vertically for gravity. But a four-curved structure is, and the innate intelligence inside this little being knows this, and it's going to go, and it's going to do tummy time, and it's going to stay on its stomach, and it's going to look around. There's a reason it's shifting its eyes. It's lighting up brain centers, and then all of a sudden it's crawling. Why? Because the cross-crawl pattern, which you just saw in that video. The cross-crawl pattern is mapping what walking is about to be, what throwing a ball, shaking a hand. Why do we step left when I shake hand right? There's a reason, okay? And then all of a sudden they're bracing, and then they're standing there, and they're negotiating a step. And then they get tired. This is why they can't talk. If they could talk, a baby would be pissed. It would literally let you have it with what its day was. Do you understand the day I've had? I took 30,000 attempts for a step, and I took 3. I'm hungry. You feed me the same thing. So here's the thing, okay? There is a natural progression with this, but movement is very, 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 very potent. And there are people, there's always something to do. In the book, it's train what's trainable. And we always think training is some aerobics class or something on the beach that's all ripped up and we're following along and competing with each other and sweating. Training is training your body to do something, survive life, adapt to life. That's all it is. There are some people that have contacted me that have been in hospital beds with an abdominal surgery of some kind. So movement is kind of tough. And they're like, hey, what should I do? Can you move your hands? Yeah, then move your hands a bunch. Can you move your elbows? Sure, move your elbows a bunch. Don't even think about it, just go. Can you move your toes? Can you move your eyes? Can you move your face, the muscles of your face? Again, getting into this, it doesn't have to be, I can't do squats and deadlifts and jumping jacks and burpees. Don't worry about it. Like, the baby couldn't either, but it did thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these movements. True story, every time I drive to LA, I do glute squeezes. I look like a pervert driving my car, but that's the thing, is when I'm sitting there, I know that in 3 or 4 hours, pressure on a muscle is going to shut it off, and I don't want my butt shut off, okay? We're born with very strong butts. No baby has a bad butt. It's pretty awesome, okay? Real good hamstrings, beautiful butts, right? And then we kind of sit on them. So right now, if you guys are exploring it, you guys are starting to squeeze it, yeah, okay? But you can do it, and don't get caught up on numbers or anything like that. But there's something that's so small, and I just think the simpler the better, because we've just complicated everything so much. And when things start to feel like they're spinning out of control, including in my life, I try to go to the most simplest task. If it's, what do I eat? How about just nothing? I'm just going to take a break from food. I don't know. Like, it's available to us 24/7. I have to, act responsibly instead of, finding it, killing it. I'll just take a break, or sleep more, or breathe, or first thing we do when we're born, breathe. Last thing you do is exhale. Bookends of life, pretty important. So just simple movements in any simple stuff. But the profound information that's coming from the body, which you experience in a finger, is huge. And what it does is those motor centers are sitting up against cognitive centers. So these learning disabilities, or whatever they're labeling things with, you go with, and you measure movement ability, and it's linked. There's a link to it. So motion, body movement is so important. And I've heard people tell me, well, my kid's got a hall pass because he's lean, or because he's skinny, I'm like, oh. And that's the thing. We only equate movement to weight loss. Movement is everything. Movement is life. Okay? So again, every population, everyone. Now, I'm going to show, I've got 3 resources actually that are pretty cool. I don't think I talked about them. I mentioned them, but I didn't have them, and I was upset I didn't have them for you guys. But there's 3 books. Honestly, I haven't even devoured this information. It's not high level, it's just vast. It's awesome. It's awesome. But there are 3 books that if you guys could get and read through, they're amazing. I believe that, again, at certain ages, and you are the physical therapist. And I say it in the book, and I was on a podcast the other day, and this guy tried to bait me into pushing his thing. He's like, the tryout tests you have in the book for the parents, those are pretty complicated. You got to go. He was trying to sell his software, and I get it. And he's like, you got to be in a specialist. You got to go to we're trying to get away from that. Put the power back into the hands of the people and the person and the individual themselves, okay? So these books are a great place to start. 1, Movements That Heal, okay? Movements That Heal, Rhythmic Movement Training, and Primitive Reflex Integration by Harold Blomberg. Movements That Heal, Harold Blomberg, Blomberg. Primitive reflex integration. I have a story on primitive reflex I'll share real quickly. Smart moves. Smart moves. Why learning is not all in your head. by Carla Hannaford. Hannaford. Smart Moves by Carla Hannaford. And then The Well-Balanced Child. The Well-Balanced Child, Movement and Early Learning by Sally Goddard Blythe. Blythe. These are amazing reads. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That primitive reflex integration, let me just share a story. So this is kind of what we're dealing with now. And again, you can spread it across from 2 years old to 92 years old. The body carries out actions. We're supposed to adapt. That's the body's job. Adapt to whatever life presents. That's it. So if I were training or working with a 9-year-old and a pro athlete and an 86-year-old MS and osteoporosis, true story, they're all doing this very similar things because they need to. She needs to flex and extend the hip and drive the foot into the ground and stabilize her spine and breathe and digest. She's just going to do it at a different speed for a different goal. Socialize with her friends, climb the stairs without holding on. Pro athlete, going to do his thing. 9-year-old, going to be active at recess. Okay, but again, along the spectrum, you come in my office, you can see anybody, right? I had a 18-year-old in yesterday, and he was on the table, and he lives like 50 minutes away, so he comes like once every 2-3 weeks or so. And he had a benign bone tumor in his shoulder, so we were doing some stuff there. But again, first thing you do when you come in the office, check the nervous system. He laid on the table, I checked him, moved him. As I was touching his back was responding. It was like reflexively contracting. This is interesting. Well, there's a reflex. I don't know if you guys remember, but there's newborn reflex that if you stroke the skin over the right or left of the spine, the baby will flex its trunk. It's called Gallant's reflex. We talk about it in my book. It's supposed to, as the baby's coming down the canal and the walls are stroking, the baby will help that process. It'll try to worm itself out through action. Now, that's supposed to be integrated, meaning dissolved, in about a year. This kid was 18, so I had him go on all fours on the table, shirt off, and I just took my pen and went, and boom, it's right there. Boom. And a reflex you can't stop, really. So he was doing it every time. Still sustained. Now, why is that? Number of reasons, but how do you get rid of it? You stimulate it. So either his mom or dad or somebody's going to go with a pen, or he's going to stimulate it with movement. But the bigger thing, he's just like, oh, cool. Like 18-year-old just like, what are you talking about? But literally he goes, I was like, listen, he wants to go in the army, he wants to do these things, but that reflex path to the brain means that area is not integrated, so it's sort of dysfunctional, so anything around it is going to be affected just by that simple thing. So that was something in an 18-year-old, that if we could have stopped it earlier, or we don't stop it now, it's just one of those things. It's that switch on the light shift, on the light switch, dimmer switch. Now, I have an assistant, because I'm going to go through a couple of very simple moves. I perform them on adults, I perform them on kids, I do them myself. They're awesome, okay? They're not really complicated, they're not tiring, you don't need a Fitbit for it, okay? So here we go. We've got Sophie in the back, she's one of my patients. Let's have a round of applause for Sophie. All right, so let's go right here. Hold on. I think you're good. Just stay in the middle. Let's go on your back, long ways with your knees bent. There you go. So knees bent. I know, right? Okay, so there's a couple of passive ones. Passive meaning you are doing the work. Then there's a couple of active ones, okay? So the first one, just laying, if a pillow's necessary, that's cool too. It could be done in a bed or a crib or anywhere, okay? But all you're going to do, it's all about rhythm. We're just going to go, and you're just going to go with me. Just let it go, okay? Both knees together. Both hands. No, you're good. Both hands together. You would just gently rock forward and back. And again, it's not to get tired. It's not to, exhaust anybody. It's just to move. Now, her brain is receiving this information in rhythmical pattern. Now, what you'd want to go is whoever's doing it, now start to use your feet, and you do it with me. And they'll find their own rhythm, and then you go. There it is. And again, it's how many? Stop. It could be 3 to 5, and you'll see it's like overload of information. That's okay. That's okay. It's about consistency. Or we could do 30. It's okay. And then later on in the day, do it again. Okay? Bunch of different gray as far as how much, when. Just get it done, and a little bit every day, and you'll see changes. Now, let's go stomach, please. Good. Exactly. Go like this, like your hands and then your head's down. Good. Right at the belt line, okay? The sacrum is that triangle bone. So I do this on the table. Like, I'm having an agreement with whoever's on the table. I need to honor their body. If I don't honor it or I think I know what it needs, I lose. They lose. I need to connect with it. And one of the ways I do it is literally just a rhythmical, it's just at the pelvis, but you'll see this wave-like action. That's huge, okay? That is hugely therapeutic, integrative, and it's not hard. It's not. And anybody can do this to anybody, any age. Now that she gets this, and I've had, people are just like, oh, I'm going to pass out. It's one of the more relaxing things that we can do. Now, she's going to go on her own now, just a little at the hips. The feet and shoulders will just stay. And that's it, okay? Again, just real simple rocking action, trying to establish a rhythm. Go to like your elbows. So it's like a cobra. Yeah. So now we're going to go forward and back, okay? Good. You're not doing anything. Just let me go. So it's the same thing, just forward and back. Now here's the cool part, is where you're going to use your feet and you do it, forward and back. Yep. Good. So the toes are dug into the table or the ground or the carpet. Good. And again, it's not to get tired or anything there. Now, holding yourself off the table, so your upper body, your toes are going to be on the ground. So it's like a, yeah. So hands are just totally free. There. Now, forward and back. This is muy difficult. Oh. Good, stop. Okay. Like that video was pretty advanced. This is something that's pretty advanced, but I'm just showing you. All right. Come on down. I want to show you. Now, here's that pattern you saw on that beam, that curb, that balance beam. It's that cross-crawl pattern. It's that when my left leg goes forward, my right arm swings forward. Believe it or not, that's kind of dimmed in a lot of people, and they're good when their eyes are open and they can register, and then as soon as their eyes are shut, it's that'll fire on the same time. That's a misfire. They're not outside like not walking, but there's misfires. And when misfires occur, those muscles can't do their job, and we have some sort of issue. So go ahead and just march in place. Really exaggerated. March in place like you're marching in like 18 inches of mud. Just real slow. Bring your elbows back. That's it. So again, just that move right there is lighting up both sides of the brain. It's a big deal. And there will be always somebody in my office marching, or the next one, let's say if we can't march, okay? First you're going to do just hold, okay? Holding that. That's it. Just that right there. Let's say that's kind of tough, okay? What you're going to do is just one at a time and just touch. Just touch. That's it. Just touch. Simple. And if that can't be done, you could sit on a chair and just touch. It's just that cross-crawl stimulation, okay? The next level up from marching would be skipping. You see a lot of kids skipping. I love it. They just fly, and they're just having the greatest time. So I tried it as an adult. It is freeing. It is unbelievable, but you're marked. Society doesn't like you, okay? I've been on trails, hiking trails, and when you skip, you just cruise. It's so much easier on the ankles, knees, and hips than jogging. I want a world where we skip everywhere. I would like that, okay? Let's try a skip. Let's see if she knows how to skip. I'm going to leave you on your own. Yeah, you're good. In place. There it is. Good. And so she's done this a gajillion times with me, okay? So she's got it, I hope. Thank you. Good representation. That's a good one. There's another one that we can do. One more thing, and this is kind of position play. This is kind of cool. What you're going to do is you're going to cross your leg over, one leg over the other, whichever one's more awkward. For me, it's my right over my left. Which one? Cool? Now, you're going to take the opposite arm and cross it over the opposite hand in front of you and lock your hand. Then you're going to wind them in the middle, bring them in, and then touch your chin. And you're just going to stand there. Now, this is just a sustained cross-crawl stimulus, just sustained. So just standing in this position various amounts of time. Again, 5 seconds to 5 minutes to whatever. Just doing it right here. This is what's registered, okay? And then you would do the other side. But we always do the most difficult. Good. Another thing is like folding your arms. So I've reversed folding my arms. Whichever one was more natural, I did the opposite for so many years. Now I don't know. So try your most common folded arm position and then try the other way. And that weird is good. Okay? So go the other way. Yeah. And now at any time you get the opportunity, just fold your arms. Nice. That's it. Okay? But just those little things right there, again, cumulatively. Thank you. Round of applause for Sophie. Yeah. Thank you, Sophie. It's what we do most consistently that has the most profound impact. It's those things. We're either in an environment that's helping or in an environment that's hurting. Life is all about both. But if we can do the majority of the time in the healthy, we're going to be good. Why the last 12-year-old I had in my office did he have 5 inches of forward head carriage? Any guesses? Right? So they're just pinned to screens now. And now when they go outside, they're in these little hives where they all look around phones. But that's what we're seeing now. Now there's cord strain, there's segments that aren't moving. You talk to them, there's surely allergies and all this other things. And then the kid, my elbow hurts, I need to get better for baseball. And that's why I have a long talk with a parent. Like, there's more going on there that we have to address. So, again, consistency with this whole deal, just small little moves all the time. It's like a big piece of art. There's a bunch of little strokes, and then when they're added together, it's, oh my gosh, it's a masterpiece. And that's what it is, because life doesn't stop, as you guys know. It's coming at us. It's coming at us, and its job is to take us down. And we'll lose at some point, or gain, depending on where we go, whatever. But the thing is, it's just trying to set the body in a position to be able to adapt as efficiently as possible at any stage in the game. At any stage in the game. And I hear it all the time. I'm so far gone, I've got this, or I'm this age, or I'm too... If you have breath in your lungs, warm blood in your veins, power over your nerves, there's always a time to change. And that's it. Thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. What was the question? Yeah. Yes. The body will always try to adapt. Now, here's the interesting thing with that. I'm so a miracle believer. There are expectations for me. That's how I believe, and it upsets a lot of people, to be honest with you. The body's on its own time. If we're on a path of 120 to 130 years by design, sometimes the body's like, I had you at like 108. I was going to fix it, but we passed away at 82. But it was on that path, because there's been an appendix scar. Take something so simple, an appendix scar in a 70-plus-year-old that was gone. It took the body 50-plus years to totally take care of that gash. but it did it. That's success. We were upset that it, you know what I mean? So at any stage, yes, absolutely. Now, the response from the person, because that's a lot of information. Do you know what I mean? And you'll see, I call it neurological fatigue in my office, because sometimes with the training, it's not physical. They're like, don't sweat a lot, but they leave like they just read a really long book. And they're just like, my God, like everything's just that. So you'll read that in the person or yourself, and you'll see, and again, we're looking long haul on it, small steps. Anybody else? Talk to me.
So, I remember hearing at one point that the crawling stage is really important. My boys never crawled the commando crawl, but they never did the hands and knees like this and then just moved to walking when they're about 5. And I'd heard somewhere that was important, so I try and make, like they're 19 and 16 now, but
Yeah.
I try and make them crawl. But then, is that like, is there any validity to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want you, to an extent, we want to delay development as much as possible. I was a late developer, but as Doc said, we want it now. Like, we're trying to get this elite youth in every way, shape, or form, and we've got it, but we have dysfunctional teens and adults. Like, yay, success. But what? So the thing is, if they miss that step, we could go back, and it'd be stuff like bear crawls or crab walks or some of those things to where their hands are integrated through their shoulders, through their torso, through their feet. But now a 16 and 19-year-old can be like, Mom, you're crazy. Okay, awesome. All right, cool. So, yes, that would be a stage to visit. One of the things, too, that we're kind of guilty of is we try to get them upright as soon as possible. And it's like the baby will go upright when it's ready to bear weight upright. So if we sit it in something and it's not ready, it's ultra common that all of a sudden that spine might curve. There might be imbalances, the muscles will pull because it wasn't developed enough, but we were trying to get it as upright to win the race with the other kids in the neighborhood. It's just one of those things that as little as we can speed things up, taking as much time as possible. But yes, absolutely with them. Now that they've had more and more years of that stage and compiling on that mist, they just have to do more now, but they can handle more now emotionally because they're 16, 19, and physically. So, yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else?
On the stream, Sherry Dimmick says, this is very inspirational. It can be applied not only to my adult Jacobson syndrome son, but to myself. Thank you.
Hey, all right, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yes? Yeah. I got it. All right. No, hold on. I just skipped there because I dig skipping. So here's the thing. All right. I do this at gas stations. It was weird in Illinois, not so weird in Southern California. They were a little more accepting of odd down here, but it's, you guys remember those rebounders they sold, those little mini trampolines? There's so much benefit to that action. They sold the trampoline so it would be gentle enough to have this kind of a movement. And they had a pole so you could hold on and bounce. Sophie knows we spend hours bouncing. Everybody that walks in, one of the first things you do, I check them, adjust them if they need it, and we're bouncing. So let's think about this now. 1, every time you change direction vertically like this, every muscle in the body has to fire. It has to. It has to turn on, appropriate to whatever the change of direction force is. Okay? So we're stimulating like mad. I mean, it's advanced, and it's really one of those like one shot fits all kind of a thing. Like it hits it all. There's times where at the end of the day, I didn't really necessarily train that day, and I'll end my day with 5 minutes of just bouncing. It's not jump roping to get my heart rate. It's just bouncing. Now, here's the deal. When we leave the ground, if we actually can leave the ground, we're staying on our toes, by the way. Okay, if you can do it in bare feet, connect with bare feet. But that change of force is maybe 5-6 times gravity. That's a big deal. So now if we have some sort of postural deal, and we're going at 5 or 6 times, that's just accentuating that. So what if we tried to make a correction? Because most of us can correct posture. My dad's just like this, pure choice. He's like, you mean I could stand like this? I'm supposed to stand like this? I'm like, oh, so you can do it. Yeah, but this is easier. Okay, that's cool. Like, fine, okay? Just as long as you're happy, man. But the thing is, if we can, now all of a sudden you're bouncing, you're teaching that position times 5 to 6. Whoa, that's a big deal. So I have it with kids. They love it. When they bounce, they're just like, and there's a reason. They're stoked when they start bouncing. So it's tough to like monitor screen time, whatever, but maybe every 50 minutes, minute on, you know what I mean? I don't know, 300. But when I fill up with gas, I can get 213 in a full tank of gas. Did it come in here? Did it come in here? But I'll just go, sometimes more aggressive. But again, another culture, besides seeing people skip everywhere, I'd like to see us bounce at every standing moment. If we've got stuff like foot or ankle problems, or we're real fragile, or we can hold on, because not everybody's bouncing in my office, but there is a change of direction. There is this because they're symptomatic, or osteoporotic, or they've got a bulged disc and that pressure just for now. And I don't avoid it. We try to bring it back because we got to get back to that state we were at before this whole thing happened. So even holding on, doing that, doing any version of that. Obviously, if they could leave the ground, that's the end game, but that would be an awesome, awesome thing. Another thing, we took so much time to go from C-shaped to 4 curved, okay? With most of this being a curve in the neck, that's the first thing that's going to go, and then the pelvis will tuck under, and we'll lose that lower spine curve, okay? So we end up kind of collapsing this way. If we're screen timing it, TV games, those baseball games, right? Go back to tummy time, okay? Go back to that time where we laid on our stomachs. Now, here's the deal. That's a tough thing to do. It's exhausting. And if you try it at any time, just laying on your stomach, there's training going on, and you're reshaping those ligaments around that spine and teaching those muscles how to hold that position. So, if you can, anytime there's screen time, try to get them back to tummy time, because they don't even know they're training. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a fun, playful, because you shouldn't know training, you shouldn't know diet, you shouldn't know, it's just, hey, let's lay in that new way, or mom's going to lay like that with you, you know? For adults, you guys can explore this. There's a limit. It's 40 to 50 minutes. I pushed this, and I lost. But if you I watched an independent movie. It was about 90 minutes, and I was like, I was determined to lay there the whole time, and I did. The next morning, I tried to put on my shoe, and my back spasmed. Now, I didn't throw out my back. My brain sensed threat from the night before. It only can use muscle to protect important stuff underneath, so it shortened muscle. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Now I'm the chiropractor with a bad back that day. Like, what is going on? But again, I just pushed the limit to see, wow, laying prone, that really got that. So I did 90 minutes. From what I read when I went back in my readings, 40 to 50 minutes at one shot is like the end. So if you did 5 minutes on a 40, 50-minute max, that's a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? But we think like, oh, 5 minutes a day. Compound, consistent, pretty awesome. You know, you're welcome. Anybody else? Oh, great question. That's a great question. So my book's name is Minimize Injury, Maximize Performance, a Sports Parent Survival Guide. I was totally against this title, but being that I'm a first-time author, I don't have any leverage with a publisher. And I'm just this little guy in the sidecar. So, it sounds very sporty. It's not. It's a human survival manual, because we're all athletes if you think about it. It takes a certain amount of power and speed to get up and down off a toilet. It takes a certain amount of power and speed to survive a fall. We're all athletes, and we all need to develop and maintain as athletes. These principles are what I've done in over 17 years and condensed it into this nice 4-part plan that is so easily digestible, pun intended, to be applied to anybody. There's programming, there's exercise, there's recipes, there's it's going to be geared around the sports industry that Paul kind of alluded to, and just that's out of control. But again, my hope, and that's what happens in my office, is youngster comes in with some sort of an injury or something, parents end up sitting there and they're like, wait, this could be for me too. Can we do this too? Yeah, let's go. And then we got all families coming in, and it's an awesome, awesome thing. Family of 5 coming in tonight. They compete. Now they're all around the whole thing, and it's supportive. It's not mom making that special meal. What are we eating tonight? But now everyone's kind of getting it together, ordering from a local farm, cooking it together. We're doing our after-dinner movements, maybe laying on our stomach as a family. We're doing things together. It's not so segregated, and bringing everything back to one. Thank you for asking that. Boom. Yes. Yes. All right. Outstanding question. So, I wanted Don't Cut My Kid. It plays on 2 parts. Don't cut him from the team, and don't cut him surgically. It's in your face. The publisher didn't really think that the extent of what we were talking about. He thought it was cool. Tommy John's son wrote a book. We're going to get some, connections. We're going to do this stuff. It was one of those, don't cut my kid is now a hashtag. I say it. It's been in articles, and they're like, whoa. And just a different kind of graphic on the cover. But that was one of the things. It's still goosebumps. I was in tears when my manuscript, I had to edit it. I fastened it in my car and buckled it in. And I'm just driving in California. And I'm like, California's awesome. I've been here 3 years. But it just blows me away that I get to be here. And another thing, I have my book next to me. It was so overwhelming that, one, this is not, it hopefully helps a lot of people. That was the big part of it. And it's just a special thing. You'll see. I dedicated it to my late brother. He would have been proud of me, but he was so behind this whole thing, and it's just from beginning to end. It's a really good. Obviously, I think so, but we'll see what you guys think. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, everybody. Any other questions? Beautiful. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. Thank you. Hey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you.